So what I'm doing when I'm overlining these rods is when I get beginners that don't really understand really the load of a line, how to feel the load the rod tip, stuff like that. When you overline that rod, guess what? You're going to feel the load. So when we'll take a 350 and we'll stick it on an 8-weight, okay? And the thing with these rods though too is, and this is what I was talking about with this bank rubber rod, if those rods are too soft, okay, it's going to do two things for you. Soft is good if you're using a floating line, because I mean, the softer the rod, the more the flex, the more the load. You can fill your line, load the rod, blah blah blah, and that's good. But in soft rods in this, you don't want it because it's just going to break that rod. It's going to flex it. You're not going to get your load. You want stiff rods, and that bank rubber rod, that's why I don't like it. It's too soft. The tip of that rod to me is too soft. Now, when it comes to presentation, I think Kelly's dead on with that bank rubber rod, but you know, he's using that rod, like I said, on the Madison, and that's probably where he developed the system for it. And I guarantee if he went to the Madison, I'd probably take that bank rubber rod with a 275 because it makes sense. But it doesn't make sense here, guys, because you're going to be throwing from this fly to this fly to this fly. Now, here's the thing. You know, these flies are only 1 to 2 fish flies, okay? You're not going to catch a lot of fish. This is a commitment. If you're saying, you know what, I'm after that 25-inch or bigger. If you're after that fish, if you threw this 6 times, I guarantee you'll get your fish. If you threw this one fly 6 times, 6 different times on the White River in high water, I guarantee all of y'all would catch your big fish. It just will happen. It just will. That's why I say I have so much confidence. It's what you're confident in, okay? So if I'm out there fishing every day and I'm hooking fish, and every day we do it, we have the same results, then it's not guesswork anymore. It's just the way it is because you've dialed in some kind of presentation that's working for these fish. And that's why, you know, I get into the bigger stuff. But you know, like this fly too, here's some other stuff. I'm going off the charts with this stuff. I'm going to tell you some new stuff we're doing, okay? And this is freaky. These big browns will actually eat stalkers at night. That's when they really want stalker fish, okay? So at night, these big browns, you're going to hear 2 different types of noises. You're going to hear a beaver jump in the water. It's going to be more of a, you're throwing a big rock in the water. Then you're going to hear this tulip bowl sound. It's going to sound like something swirling. You're going to hear somewhat of a noise. It's always going to be on the bank. What they're doing is they're eating the back of that tail off that stalker. And what that does is it makes that stalker swim to the top of the water, and he just starts acting erratic, and that fish just comes and clobbers him. So what we're doing now is we're throwing white flies on the top, and we're dead drifting them. And when we hear the tulip bowl sound, we set the hook. It's like your hatch. That hex hatch at night on the ensemble, same setup. That's what we're doing at night. And let me tell you, we've hooked 2 browns that were probably 30 inches or bigger, and we couldn't turn either one of them, and we were fishing 10,000 CFS. So they got us. And there was no way we could stop the fish. When you're dealing with a fish that big, he's got you. And that's the thing, you know, when you're drift boat fishing, you know, drift boats are good because you can sneak in, and I would never want to streamer fish out of a motorboat because the motor, if you're always constantly turning your motor on to set back up so you can get, you know, your perfect setup from the bank to the whatever, and you're constantly running that motor like that, I think that motor's just a deterrent on big fish. I don't think it is on 22-inch fish, but I definitely think it is on 25 or bigger. So the thing with drift boats is, like, we lost those fish because we couldn't catch up to the fish. Now, if we would have had a motorboat during the day, we could have turned the motor on, we could have caught that fish. We could have caught up to him and probably landed him. But because we're going one way and he's going another way, he's 30 inches, he's going to get us every time in that current. And there's nothing we can do about it. So we're floating downstream, this fish is going upstream, and the line just keeps going long. We finally just stop it and break it because you could have got the line, the backing, all of it. You know,
when you're talking about setup, you're talking the sinking line.
Always sinking.
Then
everything you do with these.
How do you attach that to the lure?
Well, these sinking lines come with a little, either like an end, or you got a nail knotted. A lot of them are nail knotted though. These, like if you get into these heads, like Streamer Express lines, they're not going to come with a little extension end on it, or a loop to loop. You can't loop to loop. And you don't build leaders. You don't do leader systems at all in streamer fishing when it comes to this stuff. You're dealing with a 36-inch. You're dealing with 18 to 18 or 15 to 15, and you're doing 20 pound to 15 pound. And that's normally how you run it. And you blood knot them. You don't improve surgeon knot them. Who knows a surgeon knot? That does not apply when you get in a big test. When you get in a big test line, it goes right back to that conventional blood knot. That blood knot holds. To the fly, you can do your Duncan loop or your improved clinch knot. And you know, that's the thing. When it comes to knots, everybody's got a knot they rely on and they've caught a lot of fish on, and it's a good knot. So use that knot. I mean, that's the thing. I use the improved clench. I don't get all fancy about it. And you know that little Duncan loop where you can keep the loop and it can move your fly and all that fancy junk? I don't think they care about that either. I used to do all that stuff, and I just want it to be tight to the knot, dude. I don't want any guessing. I don't want that knot to slip or any of that. So I mean, and I was telling this, I had an Eastern Fly Fishing magazine on Taneycomo last week, and they did a big film, and they filmed this thing, and I talked about knots, okay? Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about knots, but the angle of your knot, like let's say you do a surgeon knot, okay? Well, your tag ends will go a certain way if you got your knot right. Have you noticed that? Your tag ends will be at like an angle like this. So you'll have one coming off this way, and those are your tag ends, these long ends, okay? Well, if you believe in your tag ends and they're coming that angle like this, you know, what happens, you don't want to cinch that down, okay? Just like the knot on your fly. Too many people want to tighten that knot, okay? And what happens is you've already weakened your knot. Let the fish do it. So if you believe in your tag end angles, just cinch it down, cut your tags, wet your knot, and do your clench knot. And when your clench knot is at this angle, okay, to your fly, then just get it down to there and wet it, but don't cinch it, okay? And this is something that I teach my clients all the time. Here's what happens, and I know it's happened to all of you guys. You catch 5 fish, and then you catch a good fish, and your knot breaks. Has that happened to anybody? Has it? It's because your knot gets weaker, okay? So like after 5 fish, I'll retie. Especially if you're dealing with a river that's got big fish in it, you just got to always remember that can happen, okay? And I've had so many clients lose fish because of a bad knot. Because if you're catching fish after fish, who wants to retie a knot? You just don't want to do it. And eventually, that big fish is going to get on there, and you broke them. I just had a client, I had a guy trip last week, they did that. And I sat there and told them before the day, I said, make sure you guys retie your knots about every 5 to 6 fish. Bring them in, we'll retie them. And this guy had a big old fish on, lost it because his knot was weak. It was just a weak knot. So just change your knots. I know we're off subject with that, but it's so important. Especially, these rivers have big browns. I mean, and you have a chance at them every single day. Every single day. Okay?
So on your clench, how many wraps do you do?
4. A lot of people do 3. Here's the deal with tippet, okay? If you're dealing with 7X tippet, you can't do a lot of knots, okay? And that's the thing, you know, when you get, like, let's say you go from 10 pound to 7X, you should only do 3 knots, okay? Let's say you go to 5 and 4 pound, you can do 4 or 5 knots. But you don't want to do 5 knots on 7X because the line's so delicate, so soft. Have you ever tried to cinch it down and then it starts to braid your line down there because the knot's grabbing? It's too many wraps. Too many wraps. Too many times going around, and then you go through the hole and then you cinch it. It's just too many turns. That 7X ain't going to support it. So you want to go 3 turns or something, you know. But I don't ever fish 7X. I don't ever fish 6X really. I mean, if you have 5X fluorocarbon, you can almost get away fishing water that's that skinny. I just don't buy into the whole, I need 7X if I'm fishing skinny water and it's gin clear. I don't believe that theory at all. I just don't. Lefty Cray and I talked one day, and I said, Lefty, let me ask you a question. I said, well, when it comes to tippet, I was like, what do you think? He's like, I don't use anything less than 5X. So I started doing that, and it works. Now, if you're going to throw little 22s and 24s and stuff, you need 7X tippet. Not because you need it, but you can get it through the hole. You got that right. That's the only reason why. But other than that, you know, you don't want it. You know, if I can get away with 5X tippet, I can put enough pressure, and if I have a big fish, I feel confident that my client's going to get that fish in more than I would if I had 6X. Because too many people don't want to play a fish. They want to try to horse the fish in, especially if they're excited. And they're just going to do mistakes. They're going to make errors, and they're going to lose their fish. So if I can get away with 5X, I got a greater chance of them having them errors and still landing the fish.
So with your sinking tip, though, you're using 20 and 15?
Always. Yeah, because you're dealing with these big flies. You know, if you put 7 pound to this, just because of the cast you made is going to weaken your knot, because this fly is not going to support it. It's like dry flies. Who's ever thrown a dry fly and they try to do it on 5X tip and they get their line and it's all frayed up? It's because that fly is so heavy and you're casting air, it's just spinning that line and then braiding it. Because there's not enough thickness in that tippet to support that fly in the air. So like 7X, like when we're throwing hoppers in August and September out here, we're throwing 7 pound test on them hoppers. Here's the thing. They're not looking at that test line like that. You know, tippet to me is only a factor if you're fishing skinny, gin clear water and you're going across current like this. If anything's chasing, you can put a chain on the end of your fly. They're not looking at that. They're looking at